Hi, I'm Lori Brunner. This is my EDU 850 Module 1. So again, I'm Lori Brunner. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I love cheese, brats, and beer. My husband Brett and I are avid Packer and Badger fans. Our family has moved over 30 times in the 36 years we've been married. We have 6 kids, 3 are married, and so we have 3 beautiful grandchildren. I love to sew, machine embroider, and to cook. We have 30 acres near St. Joe, Missouri, with 8 Scottish Highland cattle. 3 Shelties are our fur babies, Reba, Reagan, and Roxy. And we will be taking a trip to Maine after this semester. I'm really excited. I will be earning my master's in August, but will walk in May. And I teach 23, 4, and 5-year-olds virtually. So think of it as monitoring cockroaches online. My first degree is in retail and management, which I earned 3 years at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and then I finished up at Mankato State. My second degree is in family and consumer science education, which is formerly known as home ec, and that I earned in 2008. Leinenkugel is my favorite beer. This is my husband and myself for Derby Days 2 years ago, and I'm hoping that we're able to return to Derby Days this year. These are our 4 children, or actually 6 children, 4 biological boys, and 2 girls that we adopted. This is my 6th year teaching, my 3rd year teaching preschool. I am in the llama room, and these were my 20 kids from last year. This was the Friday before Super Bowl Friday, but that's a very important rug in our room. As you can see, we create letters on the rug, and we just have a really good time. This is how I teach this year. This is one of my students on a Zoom meeting. So yeah, it gets really interesting. This is my Module 1. So what kinds of support do public schools receive at the following levels of government? Well, education is the primary for state and local responsibility, and each school district is governed by a school board whose members are either elected by the public or appointed. Charter schools are also an alternative form of government-run school, and they can be established by parents and local government. The 10th Amendment reserves to the states and their citizens all powers not mentioned in the Constitution, which is including the provision of public education. And so a lot of times state governments will often choose to delegate much of their authority to the local school districts, obviously because they know what they're doing. They have the people there. They're hiring the people. They know the people in the community. The people at the state level don't know that. Each state creates, implements, and enforces its standards differently, and I know that because I have taught in 4 different states, and there are different rules and regulations for each. The 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause laid the groundwork for the federal government's most crucial responsibility for K-12 education, and that's the protection of civil rights. And it goes through, and we've read all the articles, but the one that really stood out to me is Title I provides funds to schools with a large percentage of low-income students. So we get a lot of Title I funding. Title IV provides for disabled children. We have a lot of disabled children in our school. And Title VI allots funds for bilingual education. We have a lot of ESL kids in our school. So our building actually gets funds from all 3 levels. This is our school board. And they are very busy. They're having meetings, if not weekly, bi-weekly, and it all right now has to stem around 2 issues: remote versus hybrid learning and hiring a new school superintendent. But they also have other responsibilities. You know, there's high expectations for student achievements, there's safe and respectable learning environments, and annually they establish and review long-range goals and objectives, and the superintendent gives the board periodic reports. Well, we have an interim superintendent, and right now Dr. Miguel is doing an awesome job. On the state level, the mission of the school board is to prepare Kansas students for lifelong success through rigorous quality academic instruction, career training, and character development. It's very important. It's not just the A's and the B's, it's also the social emotional and how you can be a responsible part of your community. Governor Laura Kelly was previously an educator, and she's a great advocate for funding for schools. Then on the federal level, we have the ESSA, which includes provisions for all those things listed there, which we've read, which we know, which we advocate for our students. And so it's very important that we know where our funding is coming from. So which of the three levels of government have the most influence over our standard components? Well, I really believe that the local level has the most influence, but it's also dictated by what the state has allocated for schools. But at the local level, because they rely heavily on property taxes, that's where the funding comes from. And so with all the funding, each school is allocated funds depending upon their needs. So whether it's based on income, whether it's based on race, whether it's based on disability, ESL, things like that. How does this all support the educational success and well-being of each student? Oh, forgot to answer that. It's very important. We need the funding. We need the funding. Otherwise, how do schools run? How would we be able to run right now without our federal funding for COVID relief, or our state funding for COVID relief, or our local tax dollars to continue to maintain? It's very important because then our students succeed. How did your assignment demonstrate correlation to the standards selected for this assignment? Well, I reflectively evaluated how funding was determined, and the positions held by the board are extremely important, whether it's on a local level or state level. They don't just sit in a boardroom and say, okay, this is what we're, no, they contemplate what each school needs and what, for instance, our school board just sent out a survey on how we would like our calendar to look for next year. They wanted the teacher input on what the calendar looked like. I was impressed that they wanted to know our views. How is this assignment relevant to your current learning? Well, it's important to know what each level contributes to education. And so for the school I'm at, it's a combination of local funds, of state funds, and federal funds. And I understand that it's important to maintain records on many aspects of the students that are served, such as, like I said, the economic status, the race, the disability, so that we are eligible for these funds. How did this assignment improve your understanding of the three levels of government? Like I said, now I understand how important it is to maintain those records. If you don't have that data, how are you able to supply it to the state at the state level to say, yeah, we're eligible for that funding? And the director of early childhood here in Kansas City is doing a phenomenal job with the data that we present to her, and that's how we are able to get all the grants at our school. How will this assignment change the way you teach and learn? Well, I'm not sure it will change the way that I teach, but obviously the way that I learn, it may, I will get more involved in, say, some of the board meetings. If the parents want to be informed, I can pass information on about board meetings, or just be a responsible community leader. How will this assignment influence the decisions that I make as a future school leader? Well, again, data, being a responsible community member, having the communication skills with your parents. It's very important to have organization, communication skills, and just a rapport. That way your parents trust you and they believe what you say because you're passing that information along. These are the resources that I used for this unit. I'm excited to get to meet some of you. I have met some of you in previous classes, but since this is my second to last class, I only have one more class, but I'm excited to be working with you as we get through this class.